Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Colleen and this channel is called Our Silver Moments. And I have recently picked up this copy of GWG Household Handbook. And what I found kind of interesting about this handbook was that it was printed during the wartime. So it came out in 1943, I think was the date that I found here. And people were obviously living during the time of war and rationing, and were being super cautious with their food. But the interesting thing to me is that about 2 months ago, I had one of my readers ask me if I could make a shipwreck casserole. And I had never heard of shipwreck casserole before, so I looked it up and I found a recipe for it, and then I made it. I made a video about it. If you haven't seen that yet, I'll try and remember to link it in the box below. But I had quite the time finding a recipe for it. Well, lo and behold, here is the recipe right here in this book, shipwreck. And it's a wonderful recipe. We really enjoyed eating it, and we'll definitely eat it again. And there were all kinds of other interesting things in this book that I will definitely be trying out in the days coming. And they were simple recipes and logical things. There were some things about canning in here that wouldn't be acceptable by today's canning gurus, because they did oven canning in this book. And so if any of you are interested in learning some 1940s ways of oven canning, I think that I would do a video about that if there was some interest for it. And so I am always looking for new recipes that I can share with you, dragging out the old favorites in the old family book and looking for something new. And recently I stumbled across this recipe for $1 million spaghetti, and we trialed it the other night. My niece was here with a couple of her friends, and they all gave it the thumbs up. And my husband and I really enjoyed it, so today I'm going to lead you through the process of making $1 million spaghetti. And it's worth the effort, although it's pretty simple. So I'll gather up the starts of the ingredients, and I'll meet you right back here in a minute. So here on the stove behind me, I have a pot, a big pot, filled full of water, setting to boil for the pasta to go into, because we need to pre-cook the pasta for this dish. And I have got this pound of lean ground hamburger, which I'm just going to start in the frying pan. I'll take you along for the process as it gets a little farther along. So I'll put that in the pan and I'll be right back. Now, while the hamburger is getting started and the water is just coming to a boil, I am going to take this half a medium onion that I had left over from another dish, and I am just going to dice it up. We're going to do a few short cuts in this recipe. So one of them will be that we're going to use a jar of sauce in it, and it is definitely a time saver, because you don't want to, I mean, maybe you do want to spend your time making a sauce from scratch for your family, and I would encourage you to if you've got the time to do that. I've left things kind of late today, so I am doing it this way, but this is what the recipe called for at any rate. So I want to make sure that I'm duplicating the good results I had the other night when we tried this out. And sometimes when I try a new recipe, I just do it on the fly, and then we eat the results, and then I decide whether I'm going to edit the work that I've done, or whether I am going to just throw the results away and it counted as a dish that we didn't enjoy and that I wouldn't want to share. So this one, however, we really enjoyed, so definitely want to share it. Now I'm just cutting up a small red pepper, and this one was quite small, but you only need about a half a cup of pepper in the recipe. This gives me more than what I need, really. And I noticed that the water is boiling for the pasta. Now I am making a dish for 3 people, so I don't need a whole 410 gram box of pasta. And there's really no good way to measure the pasta. For me, I just take a good sized handful so that my thumb and forefinger kind of overlap each other almost to the knuckle. And I know that that will serve 3 of us quite comfortably. And today's recipe I'm going to take to my son and his wife and grandson. So I hope that they enjoy it as much as we have. So I'm going to dip this in the pot. I break my pasta in half. I find it easier to handle, but if you like your pasta to be long and slurpy, then you should not break it. And I'll give that meat a stir. And then we'll go on over to the stove with the camera so that you can watch this process. I'm over here at the stove and I'm quite aware that it's going to make a lot of noise over here with this sizzling meat. I have turned it down a little bit, but I don't want to turn it down too much. Now I'm going to, it's about more than halfway cooked. I can still see a bit of pink, but not much. So I'm going to add the peppers and the onions. And I'm going to give it a stir. And we're not going to cook this. We like our veggies a little bit more crunchy. If you like yours softer, you should absolutely put it in with the raw hamburger. Now I've got a few spices that I'm going to add to this dish. One of them is oregano, and I'm just going to do, about a full teaspoon. I'm going to do the same thing with the basil. And then lastly, I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of garlic powder. I may taste this after and see if it needs some salt, but I often find that when you're using the jarred sauce that it's already salty enough. Now, we're going to let that cook away a little bit. I'm going to stir the pasta, and then we're going to go back to the counter to make the next part of this dish. So now we're going to make the saucy part of the dish, and in here I have softened in the microwave 4 ounces of cream cheese, and to that I am going to add 1/2 of a cup or thereabouts of a good quality cottage cheese, and I'm going to add just about a cup. I get a clean spoon. Just about a cup of a good quality sour cream. And that's going to be our sauce. I'm just going to give that a stir. We want to make sure that everything is well incorporated. We don't want the cream cheese, which can tend to stay clumped together. We want to make sure that it gets thoroughly mixed in with the other ingredients in the bowl. And this is it's a layered dish. So each step as we go along leads to the different layers in the dish. There. I think that's pretty good. I'll check on the pasta, and if the meat looks like it's ready, I will add the sauce to the pan, and we will be back in a little bit. Okay, I think everything's coming together over here. I have the noodles cooked to perfection, and you want them to be a bit al dente because this is going to go into the oven, so they'll continue to cook for a little bit in the oven. So you do not want to overcook them at this stage. So I'm just going to grab them off the stove and drain them, and then we'll get started assembling this dish. Now I've just drained the pasta and I'm going to dump it into the bowl with the cheeses and get that mixed up really good. And it will definitely cool the noodles down, which helps to stop them from cooking. And we want to do that at this stage. You just stir them up really good so that all of the noodles are covered with a bit of this cheesy delight. I think that's pretty good. So I'm going to grab the frying pan off the stove. I have, because I'm taking this to my son, I'm going to take it in a tinfoil to-go container, and I've sprayed it just lightly with some pan cooking spray. So you may have noticed as you're making casseroles that involve cheese, the cheese can tend to really stick around the edges. I'm hoping that this will help that to release, because these aren't the sturdiest of pans. I'm sorry folks, I forgot to tell you I added a jar of pasta sauce to the meat on the stove. Now I've also got my oven heating to 350 degrees, and once we get this all together, we are going to put it into the oven at 350 degrees for about 35 to 40 minutes, or until it's good and bubbly and the cheese that we're going to put on the top is all melted. So we're just going to put a light layer on the bottom and cover the whole pan bottom. It's almost like making lasagna in that it is layered. But then this is where this goes in. And we are literally just scooping it onto the top. Couldn't be simpler. Scooping it onto the top of the layer of meat sauce. And I'll put this bowl away. And then I'm just going to spread this out in the pan. And bring it to the edges. So far pretty simple, right? And this is what it looks like. So now we're going to add the last of the sauce, and we're just going to scoop it all on there. And this recipe actually is, I would say this recipe is probably good. We fed 5 people with it the other day, and we could have fed 6 had we had a side salad with it quite comfortably. So if you're just making this for you and your husband, or you're making it for your wife or your friends, definitely cut the recipe, because this would be too much for just 2 people. And now, lastly, we're going to add some cheese to this dish. And I'm going to say about 1.5 cups of grated cheddar, which I think is about 2 of my hands full. You just want to cover the entire surface. It might be a little more than that. Make sure that everything gets covered with cheese. And then on top of that, I'm going to add a little bit of parmesan. Now, this is grated parmesan from the store. You could also add just the parmesan out of the shaker would be fine too. So whatever you happen to have on hand, that's what's best for you. Okay, so there you go, folks. This is going to go into the oven now, 350 degrees for probably 35 minutes. And then I'll box it up and take it to my son. But I'll show it to you after I take it out of the oven. And I think that this recipe would definitely be worth your time. And you could certainly double this recipe, put it into a big pan, and feed a crowd. And they would be pleased with the results, and so would you. I'll see you back here in a little while. Wow, 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 wow. It smells fantastic in here, and this dish looks great. I know that the kids are going to really enjoy this, and that maybe I've been able to share something new with them that they haven't tried out yet either. But most of all, I just wanted to give them a treat. I haven't seen them in a while, and it will be nice to have a little visit with them. And maybe I'll just stick around at their house and have lunch. Anyway, folks, it's wonderful that you're here today. I really appreciate your continued support. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please consider doing that. Give this video a like and share this on your social media. That's really the best way that you can help me out to keep me going here. So until next time, folks, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.